Hey everybody, Yankee here. Welcome to another episode of Shooting with Yankee, which, as I just said, is me. So let's go ahead and get started here. The topic for today is living in an anti-gun state. If you have the misfortune of doing that, should you choose to stay and fight, or should you leave? Should you go somewhere else? Because, you know, I've been talking a lot lately about a lot of the anti-gun stuff going on in Olympia here in Washington, and a lot of the garbage that they're trying to shove down everybody's throats. And a lot of people say, you should just leave. You should move to a red state. Well, I usually say, well, find me a red state that has as good a standard of living, has as good a paying jobs, has as beautiful a scenery, and as many things to do, as well-maintained an infrastructure, and maybe I'll consider it. But until then, it ain't going to happen. Remember, I've lived in most of these red states. I was never that thrilled with them. I much prefer the rugged nature of Washington, and I much prefer the better maintained infrastructures and the touristy stuff and stuff like that that's funded by taxpayers and tourist dollars, etc. So I like it better here, really do. I just don't like the anti-gun stuff. So unless you can offer a place similar, now, like someplace in the Midwest would be great. I would love to have like 50 acres in the middle of nowhere, but there's no way I could ever possibly afford a house there. So, you know, it's just not financially possible for me to just up and move. Plus, I'm a firm believer that you stay and fight. I'm not going to be run out of a state that I love by a bunch of corrupt politicians up in Olympia taking that big anti-gun money to pass unconstitutional laws that they know won't stand. I'm not going to run from that. I'm going to stay and I'm going to fight. That's just the way I do it. I'm already going to be testifying on a committee next week about 1504. Dan from Sporting Systems is setting up a group of people to speak in front of the House and the Senate or the Washington House. So we're going to be doing that. And Dan and them will fight tooth and nail. You know that. I'll do everything I can. Anytime anybody needs anything from me to fight the fight. I'm not the type that runs. Plus, I don't think there's great places to run to right now. Every state has its own problem. Either they're trying to disarm you and take away, you know, certain liberties, or they're turning you into wage slaves where you can't even afford to fight back if you wanted to, and they're abusing you in every way else they can do. You don't have a safe place anywhere in this country anymore. There's nowhere you can go where you're not a slave to the system somehow or a victim of the system somehow. So everybody can't just run. They actually have to start fighting whatever that problem is in their state. We need more people to stand up and fight instead of thinking I can just run away. And plus, people who tend to run away, well, they don't end up being that happy. I was reading a study the other day and even watched the follow-up video on it about how they followed, I think it was 2,500 people that moved from blue states to red states and vice versa. And people who moved didn't end up being any happier where they moved to. They just ended up having different problems. Especially all these people that moved from California to other states, the vast majority of them, the ones that moved to Texas, that made up like 800 of the people, like 770 of them said they hated it in Texas and they wanted the hell out of there. So the grass is always greener on the other side until you jump over the fence and then you find out, well, hey, it's just the same old crabgrass over here. So that whole runaway is just not in my nature, one, and I don't think it works. I don't think we have places to run to where we're not going to face one problem or another. It's, you know, you choose your battles. And right here, right now, this is a battle I know how to fight because it's a battle I've had experience fighting. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go trying to find greener pastures because, like I said, I don't think they actually exist. I don't think there's a place in this country now where you can go somewhere and actually technically be free. So that's my take on it. Let's see if anybody else has got a different take. We'll see. We'll open it up to people over here who have a statement. Or if you just want to weigh in and say you agree or you disagree. Should you stay and fight or should you flee? Let me know in the comment section. I'll get over here now and I'll start answering there. I think a couple people have weighed in. Edgar Cortez said, our nurse manager in the ER left California to come to Texas because of California's restrictive gun laws. I'm certain there are many others. Yes, there are. There's lots of people that have moved for one reason or another. Just like there's lots of people who have moved from Alabama to California because they think, oh, there's going to be better paying jobs and all this other stuff, which there is. But then it comes with other heartaches. And the vast majority of people, especially people that were raised in a state and then moved to another state, they're miserable once they do. In fact, people that moved from, not to be political about, but people who move from blue states to red states tend to be the most miserable because I think that's the biggest culture shock. But like I said, it just doesn't usually work out that most people run. Now, I moved from the South to Oregon, then Washington, and I love it here. But I've always liked this kind of like rugged coastline, forested land. I don't like I don't like barren landscapes like Montana, like living in somewhere in Montana. It'd be great to have 100 acres in Montana, but it'd be 100 acres of fucking brush and snakes, and I'm not interested. I like it here, and I'm not going to be run off. Dale Rickety also chimed in here and says, if I was younger, I would leave Washington in a heartbeat. It is now too late for me to move. That's true. Moving could be fatal at your age. I mean, any sudden movement, getting up off the couch too quick, anything like that, much less moving states. Too freaking old to move anymore. Yeah, and plus, there's a lot of good things here. Well, we might be getting too old to enjoy a lot of the good things because a lot of things keep me here is the outdoors. And the fact that I own property here, etc. I've already got a house. Good luck buying a house if you don't already have one, pretty much anywhere now, but especially in places like Washington, California, etc. But hell, it's almost impossible in Alabama too. But since I already own a house here, I don't want to go through that somewhere else. You know how hard it is to buy a house these days, to afford it, much then get financing and everything. That's just another story altogether. It's like people say a lot of times when they try to do that, the fences, the grass is greener. They'll be like, come to Montana. Oh, you could buy a house the size of yours. And, my house is like $750,000 here. Well, you can get that here for $250,000. And I'm like, yeah, but it's in the middle of a snake-infested fucking desert with no jobs anywhere nearby and no real infrastructure. So there's a reason it's cheap, because nobody wants to fucking live there. So people don't seem to take things like that into account. Mike D says you can stay and fight. People spending millions, and how much has been overturned? Right now, there's a whole lot been overturned. If you went through the list of anti-gun laws that have been passed in the last 20 years and how many of them are still standing, the vast majority has been overturned. That's just the reality of it. So fighting does work, especially fighting your way up through the courts and coming together and finding a lawsuit to get behind. Not so much these groups like the NRA, the GOA. They're mostly about profit, and they can't spend money on the actual fight if they're profiting. Plus, they profit off the fight existing. Like the NRA is already fundraising off 1504, but you think that money will come here and actually fight the fight? No, it won't. It'll go in their pockets. It actually takes away from the fight. But the fight wins. We're so close to winning on a lot of things in this state. The only reason we haven't moved further forward on them is because there's already other cases in the pipeline that are going through the proper channels to the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court's already basically signaled, yeah, these are going to be overturned. So on our end, we're like, well, we're going to be way behind them in line. So there's no point, because when they get their judgments, ours would be moot. So there's no point in it. But yeah, we've won more fights than we've lost recently, far more. How much will be corrected before you die? Well, I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see assault weapon stuff change, magazine restrictions change, permit requirements change, all kinds of things. And I don't think I'm going to be dead before then. I hope not, I should say. Ungrateful Colonial used his WAP chat to say the grass isn't greener. It's just a different species of grass. Yeah. And sometimes it might be greener, but it might be crabgrass. Good luck walking barefoot on it. Ugh, remember getting them burrs in your feet walking around, and because I spent most of my summers barefoot, so you were very cautious of what kind of grass you were walking on out in the woods in the country. Walking barefoot down gravel roads, that was my youth. Dale Rickety said, I guess I am staying and fighting. Well, yeah, you ain't got another choice. At your age, you ain't getting out of that recliner. Plus, if you try to get outside to do anything, your Jamaican nurse is going to tackle you. Or Filipino here, like I said before. But that looks like that is the last comment coming in over here. What do you all think if you're watching this video afterwards? Do you agree? Should you stay and fight if you live in a state? Do you think there's actually any free states anymore? yeah, I don't think you got any choice but stay and fight. Or do you think there are better options and you should move to those? Let's hear from you in the comment section. And if you want to be involved in one of the actual conversations live, come to our live chats. We do them every night at 6 p.m. except for Wednesdays when they're at 7 p.m. That's the exception. So come on over then. We got a couple more chats coming in here real quick I want to get to. They strike down 5 and bring back 15 more. Yeah, but most of those 15, only 2 will go into effect, and then they'll strike down 2 of those. So you're not going to win the argument that we lose more than we win, because we're winning way more than we lose. Bruin was huge. Several decisions lately have been huge and made a big difference. I remember, and you should too, what gun rights were like in the 70s and the 80s. We didn't have anywhere near the freedoms we have now, period. Anywhere. So keep that in perspective. If you live in a liberal hive mind, it's a losing battle. They just keep piling on. Eventually, they lose everything they can do. And that's what they're doing now. They're backed into a corner. They're getting desperate. And the stuff they're trying is even more desperate and more unlikely to pass and stick. So they're doing their Hail Marys, and it ain't working. Mr. Furley says, stay and fight. Moving itself should be a crime. Well, I hate to move. Although I do like going new places sometimes and starting a new life. But I've gotten to an age where I'm settled where I'm at, and I don't want to have to start over again. And I like where I'm at. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let somebody take it away from me without one hell of a fight. But as I was saying, if you all want to come in and be part of the conversation, come to one of the live chats. We have them every night. We also got Jeff Patterson chimed in, said, moving from California to Utah, been positive overall. Oof, I could not live in Utah. No way would I want to live in a state that's pretty much controlled by the Church of Latter-day Saints. Ugh, maybe that stuff doesn't bother you. That would bother me like crazy. I would not be able to deal with that shit. But like I said, if you want to be involved, come on into live chat every night, 6 p.m., except for Wednesdays when it's at 7 p.m. Hope to see you at one of the chats. Keep your eyes open tomorrow for the window to open up for tomorrow's chat, when we'll have the actual topic of conversation there. But come on in no matter what the topic is. You might have something to say. Hope to see you at the next live chat. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again. Ugh, my nose was itching so bad through almost all of that.